All right.
All right, here we are. We made
Hey
it.
everyone, welcome. Meten and I are gonna just talk and get into it and share this on both our channels. So good to be with you, dude. How are you today?
Oh man, good. It's a little hot, but learning to manage that.
Summertime. You been going to the river?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I went to the river recently. Me and Joel were talking a little before and I was sharing a little with him about how I was at the river and it was one of those days where I was going with a friend and she was late we were going to meet up before we got together to go. And I got that hit, right? I got that hit like, nah, I got to go home. It's not correct. It's not a good time. It doesn't feel right. And true enough, the moon was passing on my south node. It's
Okay.
usually not a good time. Wait, no, I'm wrong. I'm wrong. But it was passing. Oh, I know where it was passing. It was via combusta for all the astrologers out there, which means in between 15 degrees of Libra and 15 degrees of Scorpio.
Okay.
And I knew it. I got the hit. I was like, I gotta go home. And then she texted me, oh, I'm on my way. I was like, fuck, I want to go to the river. I want to just, cleanse. I want to, get some cleansing going, right? And so it was already like 7:30. And I was like, ah, fuck it, I'll wait. Let's go. So we went and you could just feel it in the air. It was the sky was slowly darkening, but it was just like a stillness in the air. It wasn't enough wind. It just wasn't enough energy.
Hmm.
And we got there, we went down there, everything seemed fine. The energy was a little weird. There's some strange people here and there and smells, from this kind of stuff. And
Yeah.
and then so what happened was we were on one side of the river and the current was on the other side. The current was coming this way, and we were on the right-hand side of the current, and there was a rock on the other side, and the current was really strong around there. But I didn't really notice. I didn't really see that. And usually the current's strong in the spring, and then in the summer it kind of slows down a little, with the heat and evaporation and all. I'm guessing. I don't really know the ecology of the river. And I said, "Oh, let's race to that rock over there." She's okay. So we
Yeah.
raced over, and I got there, and there was really no place for me to settle. She was
Wow.
on like one side of the rock, and there was really no other place for me to just like settle and like rest. I was like, oh shit, like I can't. So I finally got a grip with my left hand, and then with my right hand, I was barely holding, and I was trying to just climb up the rock. And I watched the current, the river come in, the water come in and pull the ring that I had here just like right off my finger. And
Oh,
when I went to grab it, I would have lost my grip and just lost into the current.
yeah. Wow.
And so instead I just watched it go, and then I climbed onto the rock. It just caught my breath, just caught my breath, just grounded on the rock. I was like, okay, I'm cool, I'm safe. I just gotta wait till I'm rested enough and then I'll swim because now I'm going the opposite direction of the current.
Yeah.
And this is a river, so it's not the ocean where you
Yeah.
have who knows what kind of, craziness, whirlpools, and who knows what else. That'll just pull you right under, like there's all kinds of stuff. And so I just waited till I was ready. And my friend actually had helped me. She had helped me get on the rock a little. And so that was really helpful.
Yeah.
And and so I just waited and then I just like calmly just swam opposing the current and made it to the other side. And I was
Wow.
okay, a little sh shaken up,
Yeah.
and but I was
Um,
good. And I laugh about it because it's just the kind of conversation we have sometimes with death.
yeah, yeah. No, it's I remember having like a sweat of fear after events like that where I came close, like my body would purge through sweating or something would shift with it to let me know that there's more happen there than I'm able to realize.
Yeah, right.
Right? It's like your body will or like you'll get an injury and your bowels can go loose if you have a really bad injury because your body just is in shock. And so our body is always telling us what's going on. And we don't always recognize how close to death we are unless there's some sort of, so feeling it afterwards, being triggered by it and stuff, feeling shook up. Yeah, our nervous system, like where a deer gets hit, it knows how to shake it off. We don't fully necessarily know the tools to shake off things that are traumatic to us, like near-death experiences. Like sometimes, If we could, if in that moment, there's a moment like that, there's a way to sort of discharge it, like recapitulate it right then and there almost, so that it doesn't carry with us. But I'm glad you're okay. Power of the water, the mother will take you, like she doesn't care. Life and death are all the same, I think, to
Hey,
her.
let's go. Let's go. You
Yeah,
know.
because I mean, you're just going to the other side where you can be helpful from there too,
Mhm.
or maybe you just get recycled back in. But I think there's timelessness when we cross, so it's a little bit of everything. Like you can do a lot when you're crossing, even if you jump back into another lifetime pretty quickly. It's like you could visit all the people throughout their future, like helpers, I think, when they cross, where people that you know can end up helping you a lot through the rest of your life and
Yeah, right.
feel present around you all the time or often. But that doesn't mean they're still in the afterlife. They may have come back, already. It's just that they were able to visit you in all of your experiences down that timeline that they can tap.
Yeah, I think we've talked about that before.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you talked about that before, your experiences with having a lover that came to help you afterwards. Yeah, that was profound. I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, there's all kinds of helpers, there's you could hook up with Toltec dreamers or different kinds of things, but when it's someone you know in person that's crossed, that's a very different type of helper for
I had
sure.
a buddy who was doing sigil magic years ago, actually a fairly advanced astral traveler, or whatever we want to call it. And he was in a state, he was in a liminal state, and he said he was drawing a sigil and he fell asleep. And then he recognized that he couldn't wake up. So he must have woke up on some level, and then he realized he was trapped. So that sigil had called forth some entity, something, and he was stuck.
Yeah.
So he put out like an energetic SOS, a mental kind of SOS.
Yeah.
And he said some being swooped in and
Wow.
like got him out of the trap.
Yeah, I think there's all kinds of warlocking. I've had it happen, but in like on the streets of San Francisco, like a fully schizophrenic dude could like had this incredible power over me that I've never felt before. Like he had control of my will, and he was just constantly like gauging me in this very psychic way. And he just had I mean, my teacher had this too, someone that can put great pressure on you, where it's almost like they're trying to bend your will. And it's if you panic, and it can happen in the astral or it can happen in the dream world. And we learn, a lot of people do datura and they end up being pinned to the ceiling for days, like just they're not in their body, they're totally disconnected and going through hell with power plants and stuff. So it's crazy that there's so many beings and that we're so susceptible, the channelers, the mediums, shamans will have otherworldly beings as their helpers that they can use to like monitor their apprentices. They'll, entities of the night that they tackle and take their and they use them instead of being used by them. But a lot of these ayahuasca communities, people are going down there thinking they're ready and they're getting opened up, and these beings are taking over their lives rather than them having power over the being.
I had a buddy come back and he told me about something that occurred. He said he felt like while he was in the whole thing of whatever it was, I've never done it, so I don't know. He said there was a woman there, it was really weird. And he didn't like her energy at all. And he felt this like bird come on his shoulder
Mm.
while he was in the experience. And he could feel like, the claws perching into his shoulders. And he said he was sure that it had come from this woman. And when he was done, when he came back from Peru and everything, he could still feel at times the claws. And he was like, Mario, just, can you look at it? Can you help me with that? I was like, I do not want to help you. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
You got yourself into it. You even pull me into this mess.
totally.
So I mean, I looked at it, but lucky I was blocked. I was like, yeah, I can't see much, can't do it. Too much.
Yeah.
because I mean, it's sometimes, he hopefully got the help he needed, I
Yeah.
imagine he did. I remember talking to him later and he did. But
Yeah.
I was gonna say with the will thing, I was in Peru last year and I was visiting and I just like dealt with so much energy, man. It was just so much
Mm-hmm.
everywhere. And
Mm-hmm.
there was this one time where I was on the main street in Lima and they have this it's like the center area of the city. And there's all these like little cat boxes for cats, for abandoned cats. So there's this area where all these cats live. It's really sweet. Go chill with the cats.
Cool.
And I remember like it was a time where I'd come back from Lake Titicaca. I had went there and it was too high up for me. I was like, I'd gone there on a bus without sleeping and
Yep.
it's too much. So I came back to Lima and I was kind of getting my energy back. And I'll never forget, I was at the park and I was just grounding, feet on the ground, just grass. And I had a panic
Mm-hmm.
because I realized at that moment that I didn't have enough energy to get back to my hotel.
All right.
And so at the time I wasn't grounding, I was walking. So then immediately I just like got on the ground just with the mother, which is trees around, and just chilled. And some homeless guy came around
Wow.
and he was attacking everyone in his midst. And he
Yep.
was just going off in Spanish. I couldn't really understand him. And I was just like, I just looked up for a moment and said, "Oh shit." And then I just gave it up. Then I was just like, whatever. And then I just ignored him and ignored that reality and
Yep.
synced into my own reality where I was and what was going on and just calming and breathing my body and grounding. And the guy just walked away. Never noticed me, never saw me, you know?
Yep.
And
Wow.
even had he seen me, he wouldn't have seen me.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Amazing.
It felt like had I given in to fear, he could have, like you were describing, he could have tapped into my field,
Yep.
you know?
Exactly.
It reminds me of one more story, real quick. I used to walk in the forest when I lived in Humboldt almost every night. And it's that huge forest kind of downtown for those that know Arcata. And it's like a good hour, you go in through the forest and out through the other end, or I don't know how I would do it. I think I would do it like that. And there was this dude that would go in there and he would
Mm.
try and confront people or attack them somehow. And like people even told me about him. I remember one day I was walking and I saw him and I had my headphones and I just gave the guy hello. Hey man, what's going on? And he tried to say some more things to me to pull me into his reality. And I was just like, oh man, that's cool. I'll see you, man. And I just kept going. Another example of, he
Yeah.
couldn't tap into my reality because I already had it fixed.
Amazing. Wow. Yeah, dude, that's so cool. It's such responsibility, taking responsibility like that, because just because that person's attacking everyone has nothing to do with you, right? But if you're in that box of comparison and you identify with everyone else, right, then you're not independently powerful enough to change the dynamics. And that's what stalking really is. And that's why this world is perfectly set up for us to learn. We don't have to run away from the matrix whatsoever. It's just there it's like a feedback to where you're at. And in a way, people do feel like NPCs because they're almost being used as reflective programs, because you can change their program by changing your program. They can't respond to you in a certain way if you change how you're interacting with it. So it is a phantom world, but we can use the phantom world to our advantage. People don't even realize that they're being changed just by your presence, but they but by when you realize that, you get to change like everything. But it's when you counteract that awareness by saying, "Oh no, that doesn't work." Right? So we until, you almost have to be on mushrooms to get rid of that default negative, or something that's so strong that you're no longer counteracting your intuition and your power. But the danger of having access to the ability to change the algorithm of everything around you is that you could get illusions of grandeur around the breakthrough of it.
Hmm.
So it's like we're still under hypnosis because we're not ready for the freedom that comes with not being under hypnosis.
Right, right. The five senses are a type of hypnosis, just like
Yeah.
holes in a bag.
Yeah.
Take that hat off, take that bag off, and now it's not practice anymore. Now, whatever you think is, whatever you think about, you're there. That's it. So we should be thankful for the bag over our head, with the
Yeah.
holes in it.
And for the forces that are here to challenge us, like what are potentially our subject today around the pendulum, around these, as large groups develop the capacity for group intent, there's usually something that shows up to make sure that it goes in a particular direction that's controllable. Is it maybe a good way to talk about it?
What you said, when you were saying this is a great intro to it. When you said that when we realize that we can shift the algorithms around us by pacing our responses according to what we want to focus on and enlarge. I mean, I'm putting words in your mouth, that when we do that, we're walking in and out of pendulums.
Yeah.
So that's the power you're talking about.
Yeah.
Once we achieve a certain level of awareness where we can just be in a situation, see the script before us,
Hmm.
and, it's our turn to read our lines, right? And I'm like, okay, let me read my lines. But because we're aware of that, we're in and out of pendulums, I'll just go like, nah, fuck it. I ain't gonna read that shit today.
Exactly.
And then I say something totally off script, right?
Yeah.
And then I observe, I watch the reactions around me, and I go home and I think, wow, that feels really powerful. Let me calm down, let me not get, as you were saying, some delusion of grandeur that I'm gonna walk into any city or place and think I can, walk in and out of the pendulum so easy.
Yeah.
You
Exactly.
Because that's not true. I can do it here because I know the script. But if
Yes.
I go into, I never been to, let's say, I don't know, a random place, like I don't know, London. Let's say I walk in there.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to like assimilate into the pendulum to some degree so
Sure.
that I recognize what the everyday factors are, what the script is.
Yeah.
And then once I know the script, then I can start playing around a little. It's
Totally.
all steps, right?
Or eventually you'll know enough scripts that you'll realize they're all so similar that you can trust yourself to adapt to brand new scripts without having any, assimilation. So like you'll be able to go into alien worlds, which are real according to the Toltecs, without being noticed, right? And Carlos went in there, he was staring at everybody, and Don Juan's like, dude, you have to act normal or they're all going to come towards us. And pretty soon they're just like these ghouls just because it's a world in which these beings exist under hypnosis in other worlds too. So Carlos was pulling them out of hypnosis just by being not from there. So the phantoms all started coming from him. Like it's just programs and programs and programs.
Isn't that like Inception? Remember when every time they go under, they're
Yeah.
fighting against their own mindscape?
Yeah.
And then so they start getting attacked and shut up like every single
Yeah.
level of deeper reality they go into.
Yeah. Yeah. So like this whole place is connected. Even the alien worlds are not separate. They are just another version, right? But like they might not have like concrete there or something. You might have like a whole different way in which things are built, but there's still structures. There's still stories and backdrops and movie screens and green screen. It's just whatever it is. It's not even a simulation because it's a dream. So the zeros and ones that write up the codes and stuff are still within the dream. So those don't even need to be there. All we need to know is that it's a dream and that we're dreamers and that dreams are the doors to alien worlds, not rocket ships.
You sure? It's just around. Of course.
Yeah, I mean, it's just so hilarious that we would go outward. We would think that the worlds are out there. Right?
It's like, right? Every time we move out, it's like, no, what are you dealing with? You're dealing with more frustration, more tension, more walls
Yeah.
because you're not going both ways.
Yeah, it's like the ultimate running away. It's like Mars. It's so funny. It's like we can't handle this place, so we'll just go somewhere else.
I saw someone with a t-shirt that said, "I'm not going to Mars." That's like brilliant. I
Okay.
gotta get that t-shirt. That's sick. Yeah, I mean, escapism, right?
Yeah.
Let's go as far out, right, to the liminal as we can. We're almost there. We're almost out of here, right? There's stories like this where they're like trying to escape the world, right? And they're going
Yeah.
out and out. Oh, we're almost out of here. Look, there's nothing in the beyond. We're almost arriving at the beyond. Oh, it's wait, I see something in the distance, and they keep going and going, and then they're right back in the middle of the city where they started.
Yeah. Oh, I love it.
It's
Yeah.
brilliant, man.
Yeah, I had a friend in construction. He's like, I'm going to Mars someday, dude. I just want to start over somewhere, like clean the slate.
What the fuck
I'm like, dude, have you ever been
is
to
that?
Wyoming? Like you can go get land in Wyoming. It'll feel like your own planet. Like you don't have to like
That's nuts, dude. That's what you hear, you hear like they have these like whole production sets of, the whole right, the whole run to the moon, right? Like
uh,
was really done in Utah, and they have like a production set there. It's like, oh, so that's the moon. It really wasn't Utah or wherever. So
totally.
New
Oh,
Mexico, wherever they supposedly filmed it, dude.
right.
That's crazy. Uh,
Yeah, actually, the White Sands is psychedelic. Have you ever been out there in New Mexico? You can just get in a car, like a convertible, or sit on top of your Jeep and just put it in cruise control and get up on top of your Jeep in a lawn chair and just go for miles because there's no bumps. It's just flat and there's nobody out there. It's what people do. Like you're just in the most psychedelic plane. It's just white. You can't see the horizon. You can't see anything because like at night or at twilight, it all just merges. It becomes like a reflection of what's above. There's a lot of places that they say that that place was destroyed and there's just been a lot of stories around what they did with weapons and stuff in New Mexico. So it's interesting to consider because I think the sound barrier is a thing. I was outside of Burning Man, Black Rock Desert on mushrooms, like a mile away, looking down on this city that was growing over time. It's what it looked like to me because it was like day one. So the city was being built. And to me, it was like watching like months of construction go up, like over time, like fast forward. And then it came nighttime and the sound was suddenly turned on and it just like penetrated the silence of the desert. And it was such a disturbing jolt to like the wildlife and the spirits of that land to be in such pristine silence and to bring in like thousands of speakers and just fucking turn them on all at once. Like there's something to the way we behave with nature that's so insane. Like to just be
the
there and
curse of the
witness
modern
that.
age, fucking noise. It's
Yeah.
the curse of the modern age. All
Yeah.
this.
And like, it's that transition, realizing how much we have. I listen to lots of music. It can get stuck in your head, whatever it is. We have these earbugs, they call it, where you're just constantly something's going on in your mind is to occupy it usually.
Yeah, right.
And so that journey from being able to extract ourselves from that need to constantly have something to being able to truly listen to what's there. And you become more and more sensitive to sound. But the goal is to be able to meditate in New York City, to not get so sensitive that you can't handle, you become almost desensitized in the fact that you're not needing things to be any different than they are.
Remember that scene in A Thin Red Line, that war
Mm.
movie?
I love that movie, dude.
Oh man.
So much.
It was like they were in the heart of combat. It was just
Yeah.
blood and guts and bullets and shots and slow motion everywhere. And this one dude was sitting in the middle of it. He was just in his space doing
Yeah.
his thing, you know.
Oh, that's
Oh,
that's the assemblage point. They're showing the assemblage point move to where you just see it all at once. You just reach silence in the middle of trauma. As I actually sought trauma out because of that, those kinds of movies, those kinds of scenes. I wanted my assemblage point to move. So I was looking for something to do that. Subconsciously, entering cults or creating situations where the carpet would be pulled
Ah,
under me.
yeah, yeah. The carpet, too comfortable. And then the carpet is pulled. Oh,
Yeah.
the
And that
ground.
can be done through shamanism. You can find a teacher that can just show you that this isn't the illusion isn't real. That in itself is enough, but you could get invested in that person as a teacher, and then they could take their teachings away and say you're on your own. That's a carpet pull
Yeah.
or a
Yeah.
rug pull, like, or a relationship where you're telling someone you're going to be with them forever, and then you're like, oh, I changed my mind.
I was obsessed with that, and it's almost like some people would say Philip K. Dick was like that, because he would create these holographic little realities, and then in his novels he'd like show an access way to a different reality, and then this one would crumble, and he'd catch another, you know, timeline, or what say if we look at
Yeah.
it from a certain view. I was really into Borges, this Argentinian author who had this style of he puts you in the story, you know. A good example is like this story, this Argentinian kid, he's like a teenager, he's like finished college and he's like gonna go stay with his native cousins outside of Buenos Aires, somewhere deep, in the
Mhm.
outback or whatever. And he's telling them about, his religious studies, and he's telling them the stories of Christ because they never heard of it.
Yeah.
It was great. And he's telling them the stories, and like, they're all listening. Oh, okay. They're all trying to understand. And then and then like some weird stuff starts to happen. And he's like, and they start asking him weird questions like, what happened to the people that crucified Jesus Christ? Were they forgiven? Were they saved? And he's like, oh yeah, he thinking he's, like a star, like he knows everything, right? And he's 33 years old, by the way.
Yeah.
And he's telling them, and there's like, oh, okay, okay. And then the next morning he wakes up and he hears like this hammering, and he goes into the garage, and they've took down like part of like the beams on the ceiling, and they've made a cross.
Oh my
And
gosh.
they're gonna crucify him.
Ah,
So talk about, like playing in different realities,
amazing. Oh, that's it's so powerful. Like the story is so much to that.
That's the first story I ever read by Borges. And once I read
Wow.
that, I was like,
Oh,
I gotta read everything. This guy's so good.
that's hilarious.
Uh,
Yeah, I mean, just think of that. Like, imagine trying to explain to some tribe that lives out in the Amazon that the savior is this, white guy or whatever. Like, these stories are so empty to these tribal people. They're just so, you can just pick holes through all of it. They can tell you just by the way you're talking that you're telling them a fairy tale that, has no base in power. It's not real. It's just a hypnotic thing. And then, but the conviction in which people went around the world and forced people
and
to
still
read,
do. And
yeah,
still do.
still do. It's so powerful to just realize, the conquistadors, the witch hunts, you know, the Toltecs used to have to pretend to be like religious in order to not be hunted by the religious people. They'd have to walk amongst them because they clearly had energy, and so they needed to fit in. Can't hide that energy sometimes, so you have to pretend that you're on their team, which is even more insane. Like, because then you're stuck on, on the enemy's side in a sense, but maybe you could do some good over there and like save some
Yeah.
people. And it's just, I don't know that we won't see that again, this Christian Reich thing. And it's just crazy what can happen at any point. The frenzy of
What a
humanity.
topo. What a fucking egregore.
Mm,
I mean, all you have to do is think it up, right?
yeah,
Some of these magicians, and there's the being with a life of its own.
yeah, yeah,
The Roman Empire, right, created this idea, pretty
yeah,
much. And now we're all beholden to it as some kind of fixed reality. Like, don't you know that this person did this thing?
yeah,
What do you mean? Like, like someone imagined a good story and you
yeah,
bought it. And so now
totally.
it's sold. Who's buying, right? Like
I
Megadeth's
know
got his what he's
it's just
doing.
amazing that people will defend it to the like they have no way of proving this to themselves. It's similar to listening, to I go into these to the cosmology debate a lot to listen to how obsessed people are with flat Earth and how obsessed people are with globe Earth. Both of them have gotten hijacked so completely. It's
Oh
so
yeah.
crazy to watch.
Yeah.
And it's just like their whole life depends on, arguing with these people. And it's so psychedelic just to be in the presence of something that can hijack to that degree. So it can be really any storyline as long as there's something to defend, right? And then that you can feel righteous, self-righteous because you're on the side that is smarter than the other side. So religious versus science, science versus religion, all of it's just set up really perfectly to keep us in that. So even like the some of the smartest people I know are flat earthers. It's just amazing to listen to them talk about the ether and all the stuff that comes with it. I totally resonate with that even though it's a holographic projected reality, there's still no proof of curvature and that the
Right.
that we're in a timepiece and the sun and the moon are the same size and it's all local and magical and but the need to try to destroy the other side's view,
Right.
right? The wound around being right and the validation needs to be the one that has the truth.
It's so weird because what's that going to solve? It's like the contrast is what gives you power.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what happens? What happens when everyone agrees and says,
Right.
"Oh yeah, it's all flat"? Then you're back. Then you have no one to fight. And then, like
Yeah,
you
I
said,
know.
it's like militant men in peaceful times attack themselves. You're gonna create a new war. What are you gonna do?
It's so true. Yeah, like this globe earther will come in the flat earth room and everyone just like they're all like, and then but there's you can tell they're like, yes, like it's like so it's this weird like sharks in the water kind of thing, and they're kind of like sick of the same food, but they just can't wait to eat. It's just crazy. I don't know. I learned so much from just people. It's a fascinating time to be arguing over stuff, and
I love saying things to them like, "Well, it's flat-ish." or it's roundish,
yeah,
Sometimes it looks flattish. Right now, my backyard looks roundish. You know,
yeah,
just to have fun,
totally. And just yeah, the fact that ultimately it's an illusion. There is no physical existence. It has to be holographic projection if shamans, because you don't have to like once you understand that through gazing you can move beyond what you think is so physical here, then you realize everything is pure perception. And that's just simplest secret we can discover, but we can't discover it because we're constantly thinking. And it takes pure feeling and pure perception in order to experience it. And then when you're forced to experience it on ayahuasca or mushrooms, you'll subconsciously give the credit to the mushroom or to
Yes,
ayahuasca.
yes, exactly. And then because those people come back and they talk to me and I'm like, I don't know what you got from that
Right.
because it seems like you just compartmentalized your perceptions. I
Which you almost have to. It would be too much to go there on your own. So something took you there and brought you back, right? If you get there on your own, it's not so easy to come back. So you want to go slow so that you can stay there. Imagine staying there and still being able to swing a hammer, like be able to do all of it at once. Like everything becomes beautiful and magical and the plywood's moving and everything's psychedelic, but you're still so grounded that you can still function within the psychedelic world. And you could place your attention into the dream world, or you could telepathy or remote view real quick and be back like it was nothing. So shamans walk in and out of this place and you wouldn't even know it. They're not announcing it. It may look like they're just sleeping in the corner, but they're visiting other places. And then they walk up and start cooking eggs, or whatever. And they're still do functional, normal people things. And there's no big deal about it once it starts happening to you. I mean, you go through shock. Like Carlos was totally overwhelmed with what was happening to him. And even to the point he was pretending it wasn't.
But we know that was his path. We know that
Yeah.
that Don Juan said to him, like, I'm gonna shock you. Or afterwards said, I had to do the shock route with you.
Yeah.
I've always said, like, for a long time that and this is kind of a very tight definition of black magic, but I always said like in a way black magic is just doing shortcuts
Mm.
because it's and that's fine if it's correct again, with Don Juan and Castaneda, but that's what essentially it is. Like you're taking a shortcut to get somewhere when you could get there in another way. I like to go outside and what I'll do is just defocus my eyes, look
Yeah.
at trees. And then after a while, I'm seeing this, I'm seeing that. I
Hmm.
just stay calm. I'm just cool. And and then eventually I come out of it.
Yeah. Amazing. Me too. I do a lot of that.
How are we doing anything different? We're not. We're there.
Yeah,
It's that easy.
totally.
It's that easy. It's just calm. And it's like you always say, it's like there's something about when you stop the mind that the body relaxes or the nervous system relaxes.
Hmm.
Because it's not having to interpret or protect or attack or address.
Yeah.
It's a true state of beingness. Because every time we think we're feeding impulses into our nervous system and we're playing the script, right?
Yeah.
We're sending the same message. Oh, we have to protect, we have to attack, we have to do this, we have to do that.
Yeah, the not doings, there's laying down magical passes that are really unique for placing you into certain levels of attention, especially in large groups, because when you're laying down, you're more rested, more likely to go deeper, closer to the earth. And yeah, so it's not like you have to be some badass warrior doing all these crazy movements, or it's really the women have the advantage. They're like, they have it right in their when they're listening. It's like lay around, like talk, just like rest, sleep, nap, restore, reset. When given the opportunity, women in their intuition will go into that more magical, dreamy state. And our ability to tap that feminine, that not doing, like Rachel would go to the woods and like sleep. And I'm like, wow, that's the ultimate not doing is just not doing. You're just sleeping. And like, what an incredible place to sleep. Where
Right.
I thought, well, we need to be gazing. We're in the woods. We should be communing with the trees. And she just like goes out. I'm like, whoa, actually, that's incredible. Like, I could learn to do that too. And like, what an incredible place to sleep. What a life-changing thing to be able to just give yourself permission to truly rest. And what can happen, especially for women, is when you learn to regulate your nervous system through nature and giving yourself rest and recovery from motherhood or trying to be in the masculine, then all this like, the depth of the feminine is revealed. You start being more natural in your movements and how you interact with the world because women have been copying men so much in order to just sort of stay afloat financially and to not be so taken advantage of because a lot of men will offer support and then pull it away. And that's why the court system's so lopsided against men now.
Mm-hmm.
Such a toxic situation for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're just in such a difficult transition in which we come out of those storylines. Like my friend and I were just talking about, two birds can't fly if, even though they have four wings, if they're tied together. And
Mm-hmm.
marriage ties people together in a way that keeps them both from flying. And it's such a dysfunctional setup. But it's like the hypnosis of what a marriage is supposed to be is all this compromise. And that's where the regret and the resentment and the confusion happens. And yet we're being asked, men, to hold space for women to move into their feminine and create a container for them to discover their power. But there's so many traps in even trying to do that that everybody's just kind of like, fuck, what do we even do? If we're aware, we're looking at it like, I don't even know if this works, even having a partner, having a having a commitment because of how many things show up that are there to ensure that, the patterns just get thicker instead of lighter.
I wonder that as I kind of explore this, getting to know people. I mean, that's what we do, right? Whether
Yeah.
we're in a partnership or out of it,
Yeah.
we're just getting to know. And if we can imagine, it's like a Venn diagram situation, right? It's like you and the partner, me and the partner are two circles, right? And there's overlap.
Yeah.
And so we know we're in each other's kind of space, and we're
Mm.
sharing that space. We have that little crossover space, right? That
Mm.
little Vesica Pisces or whatever. But on either side, there's other overlays too. And those are the pendulums that the partner or that myself or that the other subscribes to.
Yeah.
So we all have all these subscriptions, right? All these different pendulums, and we're playing with them. And at any given moment, one of those pendulums can pull and imbalance that kind of center space.
Yeah.
And and that's not even really the innermost space. The innermost space is like a bindu. It's like an emptiness, and it's an emptiness that protects both partners, their core identities or their core self. One hopes, that there's a space, but
Mm.
man, we're always being pulled. And so, like, how I like to describe it, as like my tango teacher said years ago, he said, like, when you dance a tanda, you know, it's like each tanda is like that you have with a partner, the dance partner is like an affair, right? Or a
Yeah.
relationship, or
Yeah.
whatever, a marriage, right? And he said the whole process is, you have three dances together,
Mm.
you know, and it's coming and going on multiple nested layers. The whole dance itself is a coming and going. It's
Wow.
like you're moving together, and then there's this space where you stop. The man stops, the leader stops, I should say, the
Yeah.
leader. The leader stops and remains still and holds that space for the feminine
Sure.
to do whatever movements it wants to do
Yeah.
and has to wait until those movements are complete.
Yeah. Cool.
Once those movements are complete, then it's like, okay, and then
Yeah.
the masculine energy finishes the movement, finishes the little circle, that it is with tango. It's like a circle of steps.
Amazing.
And you repeat that process over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And
Uh,
so I've always felt that as long as you create enough space for someone or some energy to come, to leave and come as they please, to go and come back as they please, then there's a safety established where you're letting go of the pendulum, you're letting go of any control, and you're just allowing, you're just in a process. Okay, so I'm with this person, but they'll come and go as they please because that's what
sure.
it is.
Wow.
So I think with the marriage binding you're talking about, it's like we're taught that, okay, you're bound together now.
Right.
Everyone's trapped, everyone's imprisoned, right? No one can come and go as they please. You have to
Yeah.
compromise responsibility. You have to be here at this time. I have to do this, and then you get to do that, and you have to work it all out. And it's very hard to create those spaces where,
Yeah.
oh, honey, what are you gonna do today? I'm just gonna do what I'm gonna do,
Right.
whatever that is. I myself don't know, you know,
Exactly.
but likely I'll come around the bend again, at some point, you know.
For sure. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's totally possible. And it's amazing that, we get to go in and out of relationships, or that we get to spend long periods of time depending on our storyline, because we do learn the most when we're the more vulnerable, and the only way to be really vulnerable is to open up, and the only way to fully open up is to share luminosity with someone. And that's a very personal thing. There's no such thing as casually sharing luminosity. It's a real bonding event.
yeah,
And both men and women often miss how much they're affected by the people they've slept with in their life. And, just being able to take that into account, oh, I slept with her and then she went on to sleep with all these dudes, that affects me. Even if she was a virgin prior to that, now she's not, and I'm connected to her, right? Whether I like it or not. And just being able to take accountability that we are more psychic than we realize. Like, maybe I knew she was going to go sleep with a bunch of guys when I slept with her, but I didn't listen and consider how that would affect me. But now I know. I'll know when I'm around that again, kind of thing. Like a lot of my friends are learning a lot from this process of becoming more sensitive to who they sleep with, right? Because it used to be just whatever, and now they're like, oh, it's meaningful for the first time in their life, and so they're maturing and becoming more conscious of it. But it's a dance, man, and I think we get to learn more and more as we, become honest with ourselves that we aren't like I find a lot of people when they're in relationships they're acting instead of being themselves.
Yeah, right. It's too easy to go into the act because the whole script is set up. The production is there, the director's there
Yeah.
automatically when you enter into that possibility.
Yeah.
The lights are on, the cameras get turned on, and you're like,
Totally.
let me just act like I'm supposed to act. And that's why
Right.
I'll do things like I'll go off script.
Yeah.
I'll overanalyze something, or I'll just completely ignore something.
Totally.
And then I'll observe the way the other person responds. I'll say, okay, this could completely push them away from me.
Yeah.
But I'm going to do it because I don't want to be in script. I want to remain
Exactly.
myself.
Yeah.
So let's see if it pushes them away. And if it does, let's see if they come back.
Right.
Let's see,
Yeah. Cool.
because that sometimes is evidence for a real luminescence experience, one that's really, no, I mean, I'm putting something
Mm.
on a pedestal at this point, but that is correct, perhaps. Maybe,
Yeah.
maybe I could say, it's correct if it comes back, and then I can renegotiate the energy or just
Mm.
see the energy in a different way,
Mm.
or the other person will too.
Yeah, no, it's how you start getting curious about these things and you start being really willing to try new things. And the more authentic we become, the more likely we'll meet more authentic people. And so just by coming out of the script, you don't have to all the time, but it's almost like you're willing to be inside of the script so that you can remind them that it's just a script and invite them into kind of the other side of things. And if that's confronting or exciting, depends on the person. And just because that person may not be as conscious of things as you are in one area doesn't mean they're not super conscious in an area that you're meant to learn from them. So often relationships are meant to be short term and the lessons are profound. So all this religious nonsense about, well, you should find a virgin and only sleep with one person, and like, women should have some experience, in my opinion, over time and get to know their body. And I think this idea that women should be only sleep with one person and that we go back to the 1950s and all that stuff where men are in charge and women are submissive and stuff. Everyone's missing. They're just trying to go back to something that's gone. We have to be now in the new and what is birthing
Mm.
from the imbalance. And it can't be repeating something that we've already tried.
But isn't that like, that's so interesting because that's what it is, right? I mean, right now we're experiencing, for example, this new Christian Reich.
Yeah.
And like the solution is to
Yeah.
return to the story. This was the one the whole time. I was like, what? It's like watching an old movie. It's a form of nostalgia. It's
Yeah.
like pretending that, right? It's the whole thing about, oh, it was better before. It's
Yeah.
always better. You know what I mean? Like, come on. We know that doesn't work. We know that's just a thought. That's just a comforting illusion. That we can
But
go back
people get
to
to,
what it was like before.
yeah. Yeah, but it's a perfect hypnosis. It's just like people gather around it like a campfire, like it warms them. This idea that, we'll be a Christian nation again and bring prayer back to school, and children will fear God again. And, like,
And then what next? We'll burn witches again,
right? Yeah,
Where's that
exactly.
gonna lead us,
Yeah.
Just
No,
back.
it's gonna get weird though.
These egregores, I mean, what was it I was reading about? I was trying to read about the idea. Okay. So then how do we leave egregores? Once we're caught up in an egregore, for those that are like they jumped into something, right? Everything's easy now. They don't have to think for themselves.
Yeah.
Their Tulpa thinks for them,
Yeah.
and they just have to obey. Oh, I just do what, such and such tells me, whatever that entity is, I'm not going to say any names on purpose because it make it more disturbing,
Yeah.
And it's just that, but that's what it is. I just do what I'm told, or, I just, as I'm guided, guided by what? And they say a name, and you're like, that's just a name. Like, is that you? Is that your
Mm.
own guidance? No? Then what are you doing? Like, and so I remember reading, so I was reading a little. I read some stuff in prep for this. I read the egregore book,
Yeah.
and I read a little about, I read the chapter in Vadim's Reality Transurfing on Pendulums,
Cool.
And man, it's just such night and day in reading those two different books because one's a little more historical, but there was this great, fascinating reference to, I guess there was a book called Mind Games that came out in like the 60s and 70s.
Huh.
And it was a proto New Age organization, like right before the New Age.
Yeah.
It was this whole like, it was a book that came out, and the book wasn't a book that you read. It was an experiment. It was like a meditation device. The book itself was a mantra device, a mantra device. So it was just pure programming. It was just like you read it, and it's like one thought, one mind, one thought, one mind, one view, one self. Like that Lennon song. Just
Yeah.
complete mind control.
Yeah.
And and then it mentioned in association with that song by John Lennon, Mind Games.
Whoa.
And so I read the lyrics to that, and it's equivalent. It's this whole
Huh.
like they wanted, they had this kind of epic, we'll create a peaceful reality.
Yeah.
You know, we're gonna create peace and love. And it was reflected in Lennon's lyrics. But it's so weird because of the word choices he uses, like gorilla of thought or mind games, right? Like it's it's a mind fuck is what it is. And
Yeah.
it reminded me because one last anecdote to that. As I was reading that, I stopped reading it and I went to eat dinner. And I said, I'm gonna watch something while I eat dinner, right? Because I want to read while I'm eating.
Yeah.
So I put on the Twilight Zone episodes, and I saw this one episode where this guy is chilling with his wife. They own this antique shop, and some woman comes in, sells them this bottle for $1, and then after she leaves, they drop it, and smoke comes out, and there's this genie.
Yeah.
And he's like, he's like 4 wishes, and he's so excited about it. He's like, I got 4 wishes for you. And then the wife goes, no, I feel bad about this. We should not entertain this. But the man is like drunk with possibility, and you know, they
Yeah.
were they were in a stupor, they were in depression because they had no money and they couldn't fix the broken glass,
Wow.
and they start making these wishes. And so the first wish is to just like fix the broken glass on one of the the areas there. And the second one says, oh, let's wish for $1 million. Okay, and then they wish for it. And it's so brilliant because right after that, they give like all this money to the town, they're generous, humanitarian, right? They want to help everyone before they help themselves. And then all of a sudden the genie says, oh no, all of a sudden some man comes in and says, all right, taxes. Let's see how much you owe.
Yeah.
How much? Oh, you guys owe this much. And it was like all the money that was left.
Yeah.
So my point is no one thinks about the consequences,
Yep. Oh, so true.
you know? Like what are the consequences when you think that you can just give your fucking personal guidance away
Yep. Yep.
something larger, seemingly larger and more powerful than you? What do you think the consequences are of that
Right.
for your soul?
Totally. Yeah, the security trap, the materialism, if those get pulled on, if those are why you're doing it, oh, this is going to secure my, that I don't end up on the streets, or this is going to, ensure that I'm part of this group of people that will always accept me. You're just always, it's a bargain. And we don't recognize what we're trading, our freedom, right? And so it's uncomfortable to live on the edge and to not have security, but it's powerful. And it's okay to generate lots of wealth, but if it becomes a sense of security, that's a false sense of security. And then you'll become dependent on that wealth in order to feel safe. So it's a trap, and most people fall for it. They think they can handle wealth, but it weighs them down. And then they're not light, they're not lucid. And
And
so
then, sorry, go ahead. Yeah, yeah.
also shamans say money is the heaviest thing to carry, but
Mhm.
they learn to do it eventually because they're not going to let it keep them from their freedom. So they test themselves constantly to make sure that they're in check. And that's what stalking yourself is, just making sure that your childlike curiosity is still intact.
I had a buddy who was wealthy and he would talk about a lot. I remember he would say things like, I have unlimited wealth.
Yeah,
But he would say this, he would say, it's no different
yeah,
than not having any wealth because there's a freedom in that. There's a freedom in both directions,
exactly.
and so what you mentioned, the extreme is the same in the other direction. There are those who live on the
Hmm.
edge of society and have found a way to manage the day to day
Yep.
without having a house over their head or you know and they're managing that reality somehow. It's an extreme.
It's extreme. Yeah. And but it's a dream, right? So inside of that dream, there's moments where they're just like high as fuck. Like they're just so in the moment, like someday people are gonna pay for that experience, like Total Recall. They're gonna like download what it means to be a wino under a bridge so they can feel free because they're so identified with their avatar being this one compartmentalized version of reality. Like someday we're gonna go so deep into virtual reality that we're gonna get lost, or people are, right? Just getting to take a break from their character. But what if you learn to do that by going to the theater and learning to act? That would be super powerful
Yeah.
because you're not relying on technology to experience a completely different reality. You create your own reality by how deep you go into that acting.
The ancients did this, the theaters of ancient times. That's what they do. And that's just different um, layers of consciousness, different expressions of states of consciousness. The third wish in the Twilight Zone episode was the guy was like, I gotta think of something without consequences, right? Because the taxes. It was like something, that's just no one could like a leader, like a political leader, but no one could elect someone else, so not a democratic leader, an absolute leader, where no one could ever take me down. And then his wife's like, yeah, okay, that sounds good, okay, let's do it, okay, that's my third wish. And then he wakes up in the next scene, he's he's in a bunker and he's Hitler and it's 1944.
Yes.
And
So,
his soldier comes to him and is about to give him a cyanide pill or whatever it is.
yeah,
And he's like, you're right, he's total ruler, right?
for
It's
sure.
hilarious. And
Twilight
and
Zone.
that's the acting, right? Like he needed that experience.
Yeah. Oh, that desperate escape, that we set our intention, we manifest. But did you know yourself when you were manifesting? All right. That's why I say listen rather than manifest, because your future self is trying to help you. And it's until we learn to listen to that life, when we truly learn to listen to that future self, harmony becomes accessible. But harmony isn't, associated with security. So it's a really rare thing that people choose peace over security, harmony over safety.
Yeah, it's so interesting because you bring up, and all these polarities, all these tensions, or these polarities is just, I was a little intense when I spoke about, the need for some of us to join a larger community, but the opposite is just as extreme, it's also like an extremity that's dangerous as well,
Yeah. The hermit side.
Yeah, the hermit side of it, right?
Yeah.
This
Oh,
can
totally.
is possible there.
Yeah, the lone wolf thing, it's so addictive, but it's super dangerous if it stays too long, unless you've learned how to stay there in without getting lost, right? So I did have a teacher who spent 18 years in solitude doing the magical passes, the recapitulation, and opening the dreaming gates. And no problem. But he went in there armed with those tools, right? So it's amazing what one can do in night and day with someone that would be put in, isolation in prison. One person would go insane and another person would come out stronger. It just depends on how, watching Kung Fu, the old David Carradine TV show, it would show all the different times where he could like help people to not overreact or panic, and
Yeah.
like they're caught in like this hot sauna kind of setup where for days they were stuck without air and they had to slow his heart rate down. And but those are real monk teachings. Those are real things that you can learn to do in this world, so that wherever you go, the illusion responds to your power. Someone will come out of the woodwork and help you if you're meant to live. If you've run out of food and water and you're way out in the middle of nowhere. And that's what they were showing kind of in Kung Fu, is that, you can save your energy. We can live a lot longer without food and water than what we're told. But if we think that we're going to die any minute, and we're starting to hyperventilate, like we're panicking, and we're not conserving energy. It's really actually, Carlos was in the cave with Don Juan for, he was told it was 2 days, but he found out it
Yeah.
was 11, right? So our assemblage point can move and we can survive situations for long periods of time. Like they found like a 400-year-old body that was still breathing, like in a tomb, because you can move your perception to these weird places where you can still sort of stay in the game, but kind of start to mummify.
And it's a change of moving the assemblage point like changes your experience of time
Yeah,
as described.
exactly. Yeah. So it's just a matter of unlocking those secrets of perception. And I think we're in a time where the more and more that's going to happen, and people are going to become more and more curious about what's possible, whether it's reality transurfing or whatever system they apply. There's valid teachings on how to hack the dream, by interacting with it in the most curious, imaginative way. Because that's when the doors open. If you're just trying to like copy what Castaneda wrote, it's less likely to bear fruit. But if you're starting to become super fascinated about the idea in itself and you're not trying to copy anyone, I think that's where the real freedom comes in, is you get excited about the ideas of what's possible and start trying things out that feel in, like that they will work for you. And that's where one becomes their own person, right? And so we're still, even in the Castaneda world, there's a lot of like religious, like people that get into Castaneda stuff, they often think they're like the Neo from Matrix, because they're like, wow, I've discovered these powers. And they start flaunting and telling everyone and wanting to prove how powerful they are. So that's the predator energy. Once you come out of victimhood and you start thinking you're powerful, it's going to try to convince you of that, so that you'll start a cult and hijack a bunch of other people. So you're useful to the program.
Yeah, that's the egregore that comes in. Oh, you're so powerful now. Hey,
Yeah.
let's set up this big pendulum, this big egregore for you so you can become powerful and have your own reality. Oh, okay, sure. Let's do
Yeah.
it. And what are the consequences of that?
Oh,
Is it losing your ground, losing who you are, or are you going to retain who you are?
if you put on a pedestal, how could you be on the ground? So you're ungrounded now. You've let people look up to you, right? Which the Toltecs do everything they can to avoid that. Like the healer pretends to be the assistant when they come to help you, right?
Yeah, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
We have to like always be able to, that's the other thing about money, is you could have a bunch of wealth and a lot of freedom, and then if a job, if there was a need to do a dirty ass job that you feel that you're above, that you could lose a lot of energy feeling, like if you all of a sudden were in a situation where you had to go back to washing dishes for a living, right? There's so much freedom in that.
Yeah. Where's the expectation? You're just the dish is gonna judge you,
Yeah,
for
right.
not washing
Yeah.
it quickly.
Or even if your whole family is watching you from across the road and they just are so ashamed and disgusted that their son is a dishwasher at 47 years old, whatever, there's so much freedom in that too. Just look at them and their projections and just unbind and just laugh your way through the dishes. Enjoy just the simple task of getting to wash one dish after another. And so there's so much freedom just available at all times. And yet we let our parents' fears, our kids' fears, our social peers, and their perception of reality, we let it hijack our own. I'm
Yeah.
just as guilty as anyone. Somebody tells me something, some feedback. I'm like, oh my God, is that real? And I didn't know I was like that. Like I just take it, right? I'm like, oh my God. But then I get to breathe through that and I look at it some more. I'm like, oh, well, maybe they were just somebody coming on my channel talking shit, maybe maybe that's their wound. Maybe it's not my shit,
Maybe, maybe.
and you start to be, but it's good to be open to all of it. Once you learn how to not carry that stuff as much though, then you can handle more and more of it.
I had someone come on my channel for a while and they were like catching, maybe some errors I made with human design here and there.
Hmm.
And some of my Discord would say, Aren't you going to address that? You should address that." I was like, "No, I don't feel like it." So I just leave it there.
Yeah, that's
You know,
cool.
it's fun. Like it felt like I could, like, I could do that. I could just attack anyone who tries to disrespect me, or whatever, or correct me, right? And I was like, let me see what happens if I just let it sit there.
Yeah, exactly.
Just let it sit there.
Yeah, I go on some channels where they don't have moderators, but they have a lot going on and they just let it all be. And it's kind of funny. It's kind of cool. It's like, oh, might as well. Why block comments? Just let people do whatever they're gonna do. It's kind of fun to watch. And luckily, I don't have to do any of that because I don't get much of it. But if I ever start going live or start doing more stuff, that's a whole reality to consider. Like I get some pretty nasty emails from schizophrenic people. I just had a lady say she's gonna call the bank and because we worked with her, Rachel and I, for many sessions, and now she wants all her money back because it didn't work. And so she's blaming us for it not working, and it's like, well, we're charged for our time. This isn't a cult. We don't just do this shit for free, and but it's
Um,
it's a lesson that there are people that are so wounded, right? That they're in a position in which they can cause problems. Like calling the bank about what we offer could lead to an IRS thing. Like it's probably best we just, you know, pay her whatever the fuck she wants, right? It sucks, but people have power and they will use it when they feel
yeah.
powerless.
No, I had a situation where I was kind of actually like it was kind of a situation where I was contacted to do a reading, but the person started to tell me the reading they wanted me to do for
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
I was like, started laughing. I said, I'm not gonna tell
Custom.
you what you want me to tell you. Like, for what? Like, just tell
Yeah.
yourself. Like, you already convinced yourself. Like, what do you need confirmation from me for?
That's amazing.
And so I ended up attacking the whole reading that was already proposed
Yeah. Yeah.
pageant for me to give. I
Yeah.
said, that's a bullshit reading. I'm not gonna give that reading. That's bullshit.
Yeah.
I was so attacked. And
Oh,
lucky it was before, I even took on the client, right?
yeah.
So
Oh,
I just heard the attack. It was several layers, and I was like, oh, okay. All right. Well, let me get back to you. And then so I just, emailed the next day and, politely, hey, here's another person that, could hopefully connect with you and give you a
yeah.
reading that, that'll be helpful for you,
Yeah.
Because I'm not gonna, you know what I mean? Like And that's
Totally.
what you're saying, man. It's like we both give services to people. So
Yeah.
what I've learned is just, you have to make a choice. I can't say yes to everyone, you know.
Yeah, it's so true.
If I get a
You have to
hit, it's a no, it's a no, you know.
Yeah. Good on
So
you, man.
I'll recommend someone out, maybe someone that'll work better with them.
Totally. Yeah, I often say yes when I know it's a no because I'm so curious what is it possible that they don't end up attacking me? Like, can I break this pattern? And I used to do that. Like, I'd go buy like a $5 joint from like a gangster on the street, and I know there's nothing in that joint. It's just like I know this dude's there to rip me off, but I'm just almost to see if people are really that dishonest. I just give them the $5 anyways. It's almost like I'm trying to get them to do the right thing
Yeah,
by
yeah,
being like I'm giving them a chance to
yeah.
tell me the truth and just take the $5 and don't pretend that there's weed in that, like or whatever, just little opportunities to like
That's
and it's
fascinating.
kind of in a way I'm realizing it's a little bit cruel because I'm like showing up with this innocence and forcing them to like inflict karma on themselves.
Yeah, you're putting on a show so that they can deal with their mirror. You're like, look,
Yeah.
I'm just putting up this mirror for you. Let's see
Yeah.
what you do. And they're just like, they probably even feel it,
Yeah.
but they're too in their pattern. They're all, what, oh yeah, yeah, bravado or whatever. This is how
Exactly. Yeah, it's
that's
a trip to watch. It's a trip to be up close with that what you see that struggle go on when you put people in that. It's like there's a cognitive dissonance moment where they're like, what's going on here?
that's cool. So
It
you
is.
try to catch that liminal space to see if
Yeah.
they can wake up from it.
Yeah.
What a trip. That's cool.
Yeah. There's lots of ways to interact with the world, and I did a lot of it, so I'm not as active anymore. When Jamie was here from New Zealand, he was just hanging out with everyone in Missoula.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah,
like
yeah, I remember.
he's like
Yeah,
cleaning up
yeah.
after this dude that's like in a wheelchair. He was just like, he knows more people than I'll ever know in this town. And
Of course. He told me all his stories. I was like, what are you doing, man? Like, what
yeah.
are you
And
doing?
he kept doing that his whole trip. Like he gave away all his money to somebody at the bus station. So
Yeah,
then
I
he had to
remember.
like, find a way. He reached out to people through my group to get money to get home. And now he's paid them all back. He had to stay with you. He had to stay with every, but
Yeah.
it's like, it takes a certain kind of person that trusts that everything's going to work out. Because whether you would have said yes to the hotel or not, he would have figured it out with somebody else. Like it's just, when you have that kind of mindset, it's very liberating. But it can be also um, just there's an assemblage point shift that comes with that, and it can at some point one could get pretty spun out trying to make that their reality. So a lot of people leave home, never come back, and they just kind of jump like that all over the world. And I used to hitchhike a lot and rely on what Jamie was relying on, and it's very magical. But there's lessons that show up too that are really difficult by putting yourself out kind of in such vulnerable states, like trying to cross the US in a Greyhound with no money and you're gonna get stuck in Texas and then, you're relying on a lot of things coming together.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fascinating, man. That playing with reality like that is what you're saying is there's different extremes of it. You can
Yeah,
go to that extreme where you're playing with externals and
yeah,
seeing what doesn't, but how are you doing that? There's going to be lessons there because you're playing with the whole with all the energy of everything that's occurring. So sometimes the doors will be open, sometimes doors will be shut.
yeah.
And you don't know, and that's fine, but there's you. There's
Hmm.
not just you lingering by the hands of everyone in the world. There's
Right.
both extremes. You got
Yeah,
to come back to you. Yeah, when he
yeah,
did that, when he asked me too, I was in that space where I was like, I'm on this trip, but I'm in my own space.
yeah,
And then when he asked me, I was like a little annoyed for a moment, and then I was like, no, he's correct.
yeah. Cool.
He's got to open up,
Yeah, good for
And
you.
I did, and he was such a trip. He's such a character. He's such a great guy.
He is. Yeah, he's really, really going through some powerful changes with his family and dealing with a lot of stuff that surfaced. So I'm happy
directly.
for him to be healing, and it's not easy, but yeah, man, it's really cool. Yeah, I was glad you guys got to meet, and it's cool that he came all the way from New Zealand just, to show up to my first workshop. Actually, that was perfect.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we're meeting again this weekend. Last minute if you want to come out.
Oh shit. I was just gonna, it's so funny before I got on with you, I was like, yeah, it's Joel if something's going down. All right, I'll
Totally.
look at the flights. I'll look at the flights. Which days?
Yeah, we'll do Saturday, Sunday indoors in air conditioning, and then the Monday we'll be out in the trees, not sure where yet, but we'll go into the mountains like we did that time, but not as deep. It'll be more, it's a larger group. It's not going to be uh, as small when we're going to the mountains, so we'll go to a kind of a different spot. But Sunday, Monday, or Saturday, Sunday, Monday,
All right, I'll ask you a little off camera. So I don't want to take it all up with this, but yeah.
for sure, man. Yeah, so really when we're talking about these programs, Predator, Pendulum, Egregores, we're getting to look at, we become anthropologists, like you were saying, we're studying humans, studying how people behave and respond and react. And therefore the shadow work would be the first and foremost priority, is what triggers do we have in our lives, so that when we do eventually find a way to work in a group, I think as a means, just as important as being able to face a partner and learn to work together and talk and communicate and be vulnerable and connect, it's going to be just as important to be able to, uh, even though it's been challenging for me in the past with community turning into cults and things,
Yeah.
I could get bitter and resentful and avoid community, or I could learn to face community, like you were saying, being shy at times and not wanting to be connected to others. But there's a growth edge. And when you find a community in which you are guided to learn from, it's just a bunch of mirrors.
Yeah.
And as long as we don't end up in a pedestal sort of scenario where somebody becomes a leader, like I can hold for a group, but I'm looking to create a round table of counsel so that I'm not sitting there, deciding what we do with this connection. I've just opened up this opportunity and encourage other people to do the same, to start their own circles of community. I'm in Leanne Lepinto's community, and it's amazing. She's a psychologist that's turned more into a mentor, and is really gifted at breath work and just really grounded and helpful. And that's a growth edge for me to go be, you know, in someone else's circle right now, and to just like support and learn and be open to other ways of looking at the world, even, because we may not see eye to eye on everything about what's going on with this, that, and the other. But I thought I had to do it all on my own for so long, as a man, to just sort of like process on my own and be there for Rachel to process so that she could process stuff, and be there for the kids. And, I've learned that that was just a wound from being in community where I got jaded or I got beat up from trusting people that I shouldn't have. So now I'm coming out of that and I'm learning to trust again and work with people. And there's been a lot of iterations of that. And I've said before, if I was going to wait for somebody to be perfect to ask for help from, I'd be waiting forever, because there's no such thing. So I think for all the lone wolves out there, it's okay to raise your hand and ask for help. It's okay to be emotional if you're a man. A lot of men keep their emotions in.
Mm.
And one of the good ways to get emotional is to be in a relationship where you become, you know, where you're getting to know your wounds based on how difficult it is to hold space for or connect or share or be honest. So there's so many ways to move into authenticity, whether in relationship or not. And I think that's where these programs get in the way, is they try to keep us in, we're all being interfered with individually from getting to our truest authenticity, which would allow us to connect instead of disconnect. So the hermit thing's a trap, but being so available to everyone in the world and having your social circle is a trap.
Yeah, and also over communicating is a trap,
Yeah.
and under communicating is a trap.
Yeah. Very well said.
So it's always that return. It's always that possibility of just allowing the energy to be and allowing it to move when it moves and come back when it comes back.
Mm. Mm.
I feel like, as we were saying earlier, I feel like some of these social setups, the setup itself is the script sometimes, because okay, now I'm supposed to say this,
Yeah.
supposed to say that, and I have to prove that I was listening. You know what
Yeah.
I mean by saying this, and that I would. This is a mental nightmare, you
Yeah.
know. And sometimes I want to act like a kid, or I want to just say fuck that, or I just want to walk off, maybe. But sometimes I don't want to do that, and I want to follow the program and the script and just be there and pretend that I'm listening when I just want to. You know what I mean? It's just
Yeah.
you're fucked. You're fucked in any direction. So it's like you might as well just be as authentic as possible.
Yeah. Yeah.
If it means, walking about or just like leaving the moment or whatever the fuck it is, like you have to do it almost to just trust, come back into the trusting yourself. Okay, am I being authentic with myself first
Right. There it
before
is.
I even worry about what I'm saying or doing with the other?
Yeah, dude. So this is my breakthrough was that when I would go to work as a construction manager, I could care less if I got fired in any moment. I was just completely not concerned about getting fired. And so I wasn't going to be stressed about anything, but I still pulled it off all the time because I was willing to do whatever. And it sounds ridiculous or it doesn't make sense, but like literally, I didn't need to know the information that everyone needed to know because I was trusting in my psychic capacity to know what to say and when without having to be tapped into what was even going on.
It's even better. That
Like I
means you're really tapped in. You know that, right?
I was so tapped in because I wasn't overwhelming myself. It's like the genius that doesn't do homework or doesn't study for the test. I just took the test and I always passed because I could see through the test. I could read the script. I could see what I was supposed to say.
Another way of saying that is like you were going by your body's intelligence, not the intellect, which
Right.
wants to
Exactly.
study for the test.
Yeah.
All your field was the intelligence incorporating everything going on.
That's
So how
it.
could you not pass the test?
Totally. Yeah, I was so tapped into the field and therefore to everyone else's field. And when everyone's with each person that comes up to me, I'm just matching their field. I'm the mirror, and therefore I'm getting all the information from their field. So I know what questions to ask and what questions not to ask. I know when to talk and when not to talk, and they're both equally important. I watch people talk themselves into exposing that fact that they don't know what they're doing, but really they did know what they were doing, they just overtalked, right? Like if they would have just stayed in the zone, they were there and then they exposed their self, and then everyone's like, oh, we can't trust this guy.
That's fucked up. Because that's right, because they're going outside of the field of the body's intelligence. They're
Yeah.
going too much into the mind, and that causes an imbalance in the pendulum.
Yeah.
And the pendulum's like, whoa, this is off script in a negative way, in a real negative way, where even the pendulum wants to get rid of you. And let's,
Yeah. Yeah. It's so
let's
crazy to watch.
attack you.
Yeah.
It's funny, like, we talk about this, and like one of the best lessons of the Castaneda work, obviously, is that part where Don Juan tells his story, of being killed, right? Almost dying, and then having to go back to work for the guy again, right?
Yeah.
There's a term for it. I'm forgetting the term right now.
Yeah.
I never forget that. And like even I knew it so well. I was at a job and I was getting distracted by friends, and one friend was like, "Oh, let's go to this, let's go watch this
Mm.
this event." And it was like a classical music event. And I love that stuff. So I love going to the, and then hearing it all in the city. Oh. And I
Yeah.
knew I had to stay home and get this work done, right? I knew I had to get it done. I had a whole meeting the next day and I had to present. And I was sick too the whole weekend. And I was weighing in my own consciousness. I was like, I'm sick, I'm just a victim. You know what I mean? Like I can't be perfect on Monday, you know what I mean? And then another part of me was going, you should probably stay home and just rest and then also get, what you can done. And I'd been fucking up too. Like someone had told me, like, oh, you did that wrong. And I was like, what? How could I have done that wrong? And so anyway, so I went, and the next day, sure enough, I fucked up, right?
Yeah.
Whatever the documents were, I fucked it up. And so the coworker called me out in front of everybody, you
Yeah.
know, and usually I would say, like, oh yeah, yeah, my bad, But I was
Uh-huh.
in the mood and I was like, well, you shouldn't have gave it to me last minute in front of everybody, you know what I mean? I went into like a kid mode,
Yeah. Yeah.
blame and shame, right?
Yes.
Blame me, no, I blame you. And then that was what got me fired, and I've
Yeah.
been fired many times at jobs because
Yeah.
whatever story I want to make out of it, right?
Sure.
Adaptive behavior, whatever, right? But I've also held jobs and been successful, you know what I mean? It's just fun because I could watch it and go, oh, I really fucked that one up, but whatever.
Yeah, there's no failing actually when you learn, right? And most people don't ever do much of anything because they're afraid of failure. And
Mhm.
once you go out and experience what they call failure, it's actually not failure, it's experience, and therefore it's success. It's becoming successful at, experience. And that's how most people become fearless is by doing things.
That's fearless.
Yeah.
And that's this true success is by
Yeah.
becoming fearless. Because you always come back to that about, healing the nervous system is not having any thoughts. And what is the addiction to thoughts but fear of being out of control?
Totally. Yeah, and freedom is liberating and terrifying, and we don't realize we could just take off and go explore other worlds just from right where we're sitting. And so we're in this conundrum of like believing in the limitations of the program, but some part of us knows that there's a way to rewild and to exit this limited version of reality. And it's going to take, you know, it's baby steps, not huge jumps.
Yeah, it's
So
big.
slow, we can
It's
do
a
cool
little,
shit.
some experiment, some fucking around with our reality every day, just a little,
Yeah.
just enough to make things fun and interesting, you know. Like I don't have much of a life. I don't. We talked about this before too. Like I don't have much of a life in the sense of connecting with others or doing social things.
Yeah.
And yet every day I walk and I meet dogs and cats and cows and sheep
Sure.
and
Yep.
animals on my walk, and I love it. And I'm in the sun,
Yep.
and that's fucking incredible.
Totally. Me too. Yeah, I'm out here just interacting with these incredible trees and deer and fox and um, occasionally people, and people are intense, they drive by and everyone's got a different thing you can learn about just their energy field and their fears or how they wave or and just
Yeah.
being
Or not wave
yeah,
or
yeah,
not. I can
totally.
feel it. Like I feel like I'll just wave because I'll feel
Yeah.
come by. I'm like,
Yeah.
ah, I'm not gonna wave. I can feel it, and I just don't do. I just keep walking.
Yeah.
And other cars that I know they want to acknowledge me, so I'm just like, you know,
Yeah, exactly.
you just get used to it.
Totally. Yeah, my daughter asked me about this a long time ago. Like when I'm walking towards someone on the sidewalk and they're walking towards me, I'm totally, she's like, I get all tripped out. Should I wave? Should I smile? Should I, like what people go through just by having to walk in the presence of someone else can be overwhelming to them, depending on where they're at with their social mask. Because they're not wearing a normal social mask anymore. She's removed her mask. She's more sensitive to all the power dynamics, all the expectations, the script versus not the script.
Right.
right? So it's an uncomfortable stage to be suddenly sensitive and aware that everyone is, that there's, different ways of reacting and we don't have to be an autopilot, but it makes you question the basics and it can be kind of terrifying,
Wow, you said it, man. Because how many people like actually walk these days
right?
and walk by another person and I remember that maybe that was more common when people weren't in cars or something so much or on buses or maybe it's more common in inner cities,
Sure.
but you and I are out in nature, we're out like in other areas and so yeah, man, it's no matter where it is, it's like it's so easy to feel like, oh, I got to put the mask back on, but I don't. But the dominant egregore of this supermarket is like, put your
Mm.
mask on and say hi to everyone who says hi to you.
Right.
When you get to the checkout and they say, hi, how are you doing? You say, oh, I'm doing good. How are you? You
Right.
fall in line
Yep.
with that egregore, with that pattern.
Yep.
I love to go. I don't know how they'll say, how are you doing today? How's the day been going? And
Yeah.
I'm always like, I don't know yet. We'll we'll see. I just woke up. I just got up.
Good for you, man.
But it's
Yeah,
not bad.
it's so good to say something different. Or like my hippie friends will go to the store and be like overly excited and like, thank you, you're amazing. You like they're on acid and they're like, you're doing amazing. Like the way you bag those groceries is incredible.
It's fucked
you know,
up.
and it totally just trips everyone out, the whole store, and it just like such a big shift to the world when you just show up like that. So there's all kinds of ways to just, walk through QFC and go under the rope behind the check line, like go behind where the cashier is, and nobody's going to arrest you. You just walk right under that shit and buy some groceries, and everyone's like, what the fuck's this guy doing, But you're just giving people permission to just like be playful, you don't take it so seriously.
Silly. It's a little silliness.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool, man. Good way to end it.
Yeah.
Keep it on a silly note.
We're good. We'll stop it right there.
Cool. All
There
right,
we
guys.
go. Let's get
Much
to
love, everyone.
with Joel again. And yeah, yeah. See you guys.
Later.